So anyhow, so I do want to briefly welcome our special guest presenter. Before I do, I'll just introduce myself. I see a lot of familiar names on the call, so most of you know me. My name's Rob Belcher. I lead the St. Catharines Enterprise Center. We're part of the City of St. Catharines Economic Development Team, and what the Enterprise Center does is deliver programming to any small business and any startup in the Niagara region. Together with the Niagara Falls Enterprise Center, we serve all of Niagara, and we're one of 47 offices across Ontario that are part of a network of offices funded by the Province of Ontario, the Ministry of Economic Development. And our whole mandate is to support people like everybody here who has joined us, people who are starting a business, running a business, and just thirsty for information and guidance and support. So one of the most common topics we hear is social media, and right now there's a lot to adjust to, and people are concerned about having the right message right now. And with that in mind, I'd like to introduce Andrea Jones. Andrea is committed to helping businesses and podcasters as well build communities online through social media solutions. She's been featured in places like HubSpot, Aweber, WordPress, and has actually been named one of Social Media Report's top marketers to follow in 2019. Social Report's top marketers to follow in 2019. And Andrea hosts the Social Savvy podcast as creator of SavvySocialSchool.com. And Andrea is dedicated to simplifying social media through easy to follow courses, professional guidance, and community support. And Andrea is joining us today to share top tips for social media and has some time to answer questions. So Andrea, I'd love to turn it over to you. You can correct where I was wrong and add anything that you'd like as well. So I'm really excited to hear you talk, and welcome.
Oh, thank you so much, Rob. This will be fantastic. I geek out about social media, so this is definitely my area, but you got it right. The host of the Savvy Social Podcast, we actually had our 100th episode go live yesterday. So if you guys want to check that out, a lot of the things that I teach are in that podcast, as well as we have our coaching and training program over at the Savvy Social School. But I'm going to share my screen and we'll go through some slides today. But I do want to let you know that this is an interactive session. So what that means is you can ask questions along the way, and I will address them as we go through. Now, we do have questions that have been submitted beforehand that we can always go to if needed, but I would much prefer to see your questions and answer those today as you need them. Thank you, Crystal. 100 episodes. Yeah, it's a lot to go through. But yes, ask your questions in the chat. You should see that popping up on the screen as well. Make sure you send the question to all panelists and attendees so we can all see it. See your questions. If you send to all panelists, it sends it to, I believe, Rob and myself, but if you make sure to send it to attendees as well, everybody can see it. It's a little toggle in the chat box there, but we can see your questions coming in. But let's dive into building a social media posting strategy. We'll start with the concept of creating social media content. And at the end of today's session, I will focus in on creating content for right now, as we're coming out of the pandemic, as restrictions are being lifted, and what that can look like. But we will have kind of like the foundation pre-pandemic social media strategy, and then we'll kind of tweak that for your specific for the current events. Now, just so that I can see, everyone can see my screen, correct? Yes? Awesome. Good.
Very good.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So let's talk about laying the foundation. Before we dive into the specific elements of a social media content strategy, I want you to think more about your business in a broader sense. And we're going to use what I call the 3 W's. And the 3 W's are really focused on fine-tuning your offer. So the first one is, what do you sell? That one's fairly straightforward, and I'll use my business as an example. So what do I sell? I sell a coaching and training social media program, digital program. So what do you sell is very straightforward. If you're a yoga teacher, that could be yoga classes. If you're an accountant, that would be your accounting services. The next W is who is it for? And when you're talking about the who is it for, I want you to think about that person's psychographic. So oftentimes we think about demographics, like they're located in Niagara Falls and they're a business owner, but think about their specific challenges. So why would they be coming to you as an accountant? Well, they need someone they can trust. They need someone who's local. Get really specific there. So what do you sell? Who is it for? And then the third W is why does it matter? Why does it matter? And I want you to focus in on the feeling that people have when they work with you, the transformation that your work brings. Okay. So an example would be, I'll use the Savvy Social School again. It's a training and coaching program. Who is it for? Small business owners, podcasters, content creators. Why does it matter? I originally thought my third W, the why does it matter, was because people wanted to learn social media. But what I realized is it's not really that they want to learn social media, because you could probably Google a bunch of things about social media. What they want is a plan that they feel confident in. And that's a feeling, that confidence feeling. What they want is someone who that they can lean on to ask questions to. So that's the feeling that your work brings. So yoga studio, for instance, maybe they are based in, let's say they're based in Welland, they're a yoga studio. Anyone who wants fitness programs can come to them, but people usually come to them probably because of that feeling. They feel relaxed. They feel successful, that they had that time for themselves, that they treated themselves to that. If you're an accountant, for instance, and you sell accounting services to, let's say, small tech companies, then your why does it matter is your people want someone who can understand the challenges of maybe building out a company online, or the challenges of, for me specifically, I am a dual citizen in the US and Canada. So if I'm looking for an accountant, I'm looking for someone who understands those complexities. So really tune into the feeling that people have when they work with you. All right, so those are your three W's. What do you sell? Who is it for? Why does it matter? And I want you to keep those in your head as we move through our strategy, because it's a key element to building up your social media posts. All right, so next up, we're going to talk about our last step and our next step. And this is part of building out the strategy as well. So the last step is when someone becomes the best client ever. They're your top paying client. They refer you tons of business. That's what we all want. I know that's what I want. That's what a yoga studio may want. That's what an accountant may want. They want the best clients ever. But typically, before we have those highly kind of marketable best clients ever, there are a few steps along the way that are required to get that person to that place. And that's what I call the next step. So the next step, these are the actions between not knowing who you are and becoming the best client ever. And I want you to think of this a little bit like dating. And I've used this analogy before for those of you who have heard me speak before or listened to the podcast before. Building out your social media strategy is a little bit like dating. You're attracting all of these new people, and not everyone's going to like you. And definitely they're not going to get married to you the first second that they see you. They're not going to make that huge of a commitment. Well, maybe some people would, but most people wouldn't, right? Most people want to go on a date, maybe go on a second date, maybe meet the parents, maybe move in together before they hit the marriage stage. So if you think about that big commitment that you're asking your clients to make, to give you money in exchange for your offer, your service, or your product, think about what steps they need to take in between not knowing who you are and giving you money for the thing. So here's a few examples of what those next steps could look like. We have something like booking a consultation call. This is great for service-based business owners. If you provide accounting services or something like that, usually before someone says, yes, I want to hire you, they may want to sit down and talk with you, or at least have a phone call with you before that happens. So when you're thinking about marketing your offers on social media, instead of focusing on that last step, try focusing on the next step, the consultation call. We also have retweeting your post, signing up for a newsletter, accessing a lead magnet, sending you a direct message. connecting with you on LinkedIn. These are all just examples of what your next step could look like. So really take some time and brainstorm what your desired action would be if someone were to discover your social media platform today. What would that next step look like for them? And let's take a sec to talk about the social media sales funnel. This is kind of putting together the next step, the last step, all together. And so we're going to show you what the social media sales funnel looks like. And if you're sitting there like, what the heck's a sales funnel? No worries. I have a little definition for you. It is that path. So when we talk about the next step and the last step, that's a sales funnel. It's that path that your social media followers to take towards buying your products and becoming advocates of your brand. So they don't know who you are, then they're giving you money, then they're actually sending you referrals, which is the best type of business that we could ask for. Referral business is excellent. So we want to nurture that relationship. So when we're talking about the elements of the sales funnel, today we're focused on the build stage, but I do want to cover the stages really quickly. So the attract stage of the funnel is getting new people into your, new people aware of who you are. So new people liking your Facebook page, new people connecting with you on LinkedIn or Instagram or following you on Twitter, visiting your website. That's the attract phase. So actively spending time there is important. The build stage is a lot about the next step. It's the wooing. If we're talking about dating, it's the dating stage. This is where the content comes in. And this is why the content piece is so important, because as we build up that connection with our potential clients and customers, we have to get them to know us, like us, and trust us. And that's where our social media posts come in. The convert stage of the funnel is easy. That's when they pay you. And the advocate stage is when they become referrals. And there's a lot of things we can do to nurture this on social media as well, so that they're now sending more people to you and they're filling back up the funnel again so new people can go through all of these phases. But today we're focused on the build stage. There will be Q&A after where we can cover some of these other stages as well. All right, the build phase of the funnel. You're building trust with your current audience and getting them used to engaging with your content. You're getting them to take little baby steps towards making a sale. What you're going to do in this phase is share your knowledge, your expertise, and your influence. And a few success metrics that you want to look at are an increase in followers, an increase in likes, an increase in comments, website clicks, link clicks, or emails. And when I say emails here, that could be someone sending you an email through a button on the page, or it can be signing up for something like a newsletter or lead magnet if you have that part of the funnel set up. Okay, so this is our focus of this build stage of the funnel. So let's talk about how we do that. We're going to use our social media content system. And this content system has 5 pillars of content. Okay, 5 pillars of content. The first pillar is your promotional content. This is the pillar that we tend to gravitate towards as business owners because this is what we're talking about when we're selling our offers. We're asking people to purchase from us, we're sharing what we do, we're promoting ourselves on social media. So when you're talking about this section of the pillars of content, you'll notice that it's 1/5 of the content that you should be sharing on social media. So yes, I want you to promote yourself, but let's talk about the other 4 pillars as well so you can have a more well-rounded approach to your social media content. So the second pillar is educational content. This is a type of social media post that positions you as an expert in your industry, an expert in your field, an expert at what you do. So if you're an accountant, maybe you're sharing a tip or a trick, or maybe you're sharing an article or a video that you've created that positions you as an expert, okay? So I like to do these as tip of the days that are very consumable content pieces on social media and really just position you as an expert. Now, I want you to remember that you're the expert. So sometimes when you're going to write this, it may feel too easy. That's because you're the expert at what you do. So don't go too complicated or think too in depth about it. And a good place to kind of pull from this is maybe a question you've been recently asked. So for instance, one of the questions I've been recently asked is, should I start a Facebook group? So I have a podcast coming out about that. I'm going to create a few social media posts about that. When do I know I should start a Facebook group? To me, that's an easy question because I'm looking at it every day, but to a lot of people, it is a question that they want an answer to. So think about some of those questions and how you can show up and provide tips. Our next pillar of content is our community pillar. So this type of content is not just positioning you as an expert, but showcasing that you're a part of something bigger and that you're sharing things within the space of a collective. So right now, for instance, with a lot of the changes that are happening because of the pandemic and coronavirus, it's really a great opportunity to share information from other sources. So the accountant example, for instance, is maybe going to share some information about CERB benefits and how you can apply to that. That's not specifically their content, like they didn't create that information, but it's information that they're sharing with their audience. If you're a yoga instructor, for instance, maybe you're going to share something that is a nutritional article that you found, something about maybe should you have a keto diet, or maybe something about just like flexibility or exercise in general. Okay, so this really showcases that you're part of something bigger. The fourth pillar of content is entertainment content. I don't know about you guys, but when I log on to Facebook, I'm not really looking for advertising. I'm not really hoping to be sold something. And so the purpose of this pillar is to get back to the roots of social media. I personally like cat videos, dog videos, cute things, puppies, animals. I love it all. So that's generally what I log on for. But as a business, it can be hard to navigate this pillar. So some of the things I suggest sharing are behind the scenes photos. Maybe something relatable to what's happening in your business. If you work from home, maybe taking a picture of your desk and showcasing what your workspace looks like. I want you to think of this as a television station. So oftentimes when we think about reality TV, it's not really educational, it's entertaining. It doesn't mean it has to be funny. It's just something different, a little insight into your life. But you can also post memes and things like that in this pillar as well. All right, our last pillar is the engaging content piece. The engaging content piece. And the whole purpose of this type of content is to train or encourage your audience to educate or engage, with your content. So engaging is liking, leaving a comment, saving your post, sharing your post, even if they just look at your post for longer than they looked at the posts around you, that is a benefit to you. And you may have heard things about the algorithm, the Facebook algorithm, the Instagram algorithm. And all those algorithms are looking for is proof that your content is interesting to people. So if you can layer in some content pieces that gives that algorithm that proof and helps your audience feel connected to you, that's a win-win. So the type of content you want to post here are things like quotes. You can post questions, do really well, specifically if you have multiple choice questions. So let's see, right now, for instance, maybe polling your audience, is this the first time you've been working at home, or have you worked at home in the past? Or you can ask them about, which shows are on repeat with your kids right now. Are you watching Frozen 2? Did you sign up for Disney Plus? Really just relating to people in that human way. So figure out a way to tie it into what you do and your content, but really focus in on showcasing that you're part of a community. And this is a great opportunity to create dialogue. Social media doesn't have to be a one-way conversation where you're just telling people what they should do or telling people facts and things. You can open this up to be more of a two-way conversation, and this content pillar is a great opportunity to do that. All right, so what you want to do with these 5 pillars is then take them and assign them to a day of the week. So we've got 5 pillars. A lot of my clients and students start with 5 posts a week. So I want to show you what that looks like. So this is just a blank calendar for a random January. So let's say on Monday, you're going to promote your products. This is your promotional pillar. And then on Tuesday, you're going to do a tip of the day. Now, this is not going to change. Once you set this up, every single Monday, you're going to promote your product. Every single Tuesday, you're going to do a tip of the day. That's how you can create a lot of content quickly, because you're not having to think and decide what to do every day. You've created a system for yourself. So Mondays, promote your products. Tuesdays, tip of the day. Wednesday, you're going to share an article. On Thursday, you're going to share a meme, a funny photo. You can even put a behind the scenes here. And then on Friday, you're going to do a question of the day. You're going to try to ask a question. That's your engaging content piece. Okay, so there's your 5 pillars. You're going to take them and assign them to a day. And then you're going to take each of those content pillars and assign them a design. Okay, so we're going to create a graphic, almost like a social media flyer, for each of these days. Now, I'm not going to go into this too in depth for the how for this, but I do have a lot of resources on my YouTube channel if you want to check that out for how to create graphics like this. But this is an example of what this can look like. You can see that there's still a variety of graphics on the screen, a variety of little squares, but we're not going to change these designs. So right in the middle, you'll see this orange, like half orange design. It's kind of hard to see, but it says question of the day. As a business owner, the only thing you're going to change every week is that text. And right now it says, what's a good book you read that you've read that helps you deal with the challenges in your life? Okay, that's the question. That's the only part of this you're going to change. And you're going to want to keep changing out the colors and playing around with the designs. Don't do it. You're just creating more work for yourself. Create this system for yourself. And this system is actually twofold. So not only does it streamline your own process, but it helps people associate these designs with your brand, with what you're doing. Because your posts are mixed in with hundreds and thousands of other social media posts every single day. So as people are scrolling and scrolling, they're going to see this design and they're going to start associating it with you. You may start getting tired with it because you're the one looking at all of your posts all the time, but we're seeing it all mixed in. Okay. I like to use, so Stephanie's asking, what's your favorite graphics app? I like to use canva.com, canva.com. It's a very easy app to get started with. They have both the desktop and the mobile version. I highly recommend starting with desktop. I don't know about you guys, but I can't do a lot on this phone. I don't like typing on there. I don't like it. I don't know, maybe I'm too old, but I like to do it on the desktop. So canva.com is the way to go for that. And they have some of these that are already ready. So you can simply maybe change out the colors to be your own colors. You can add in your own brand logo and go from there. Here's another example of what this could look like, where we do have a variety of colors, but you can see that all of these colors go together. So all of these colors go together. So you can see I have 2 questions of the day on here. The top left is a bluish pastel color and the bottom right is a purple pastel color. They're the same brand, say they're the same style, let's say the same design, but they're 2 different colors. So if you want to add some variety, you could do something like this as well. And Stephanie says, I hate working on my phone too. Anything I can do to work on my computer? Yes. Same here. I will always use the desktop over my mobile device. Okay, so Emily is asking, do template posts and picture posts get the same amount of exposure based on social media algorithms, or is one better over the other? That's such a great question, Emily. And it really depends on the platform. So I would love to know, Emily, what your platform of choice is, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. But I will give some kind of general advice first. It depends on your brand and it depends on what works for you. So, for example, if you have a brand where people work with you directly, I gave the example of the accountant. If people work with you directly, they do want to see photos of you and they want to feel connected to you. So, anytime you post a photo of yourself, it is going to get more engagement than your other posts just by the nature of social media. We want to see your face, we want to connect with you. So Emily's on mostly Instagram and Facebook. Yes. So for Instagram, for instance, if you are delivering your service or product and it's a very personal like brand, maybe there's only you and a few employees or it's just you, um, then the pictures and photos that you share of yourself are going to outperform anything else you post, especially if they have personal stories. Um, if you post graphics, what's working right now, so it's June 2020, what's working right now are these infographic style social media posts. They're doing very well. So think like charts and graphs. And in Canva, they have some of these designs. Those are doing very well. And some of them are outperforming even the personal photos and personal posts. So and I would challenge you to think about it a different way. Instead of thinking about what's working better as far as photos or graphics, I want you to think about what someone would likely be able to engage with and share. What would they be more likely to engage with and share? So if you're thinking about sharing, if it's say a chart, or let's say it's, I've seen some of these for yoga brands. Let's say it's like a little graph that has like 9 different images on it, and it's got 9 different yoga poses, like downward dog, child's pose. That's something that's so shareable. People are more likely to share that over, let's say, a photo of the owner. So think about what people are going to share. But if it's a photo of the owner and they're talking about, I started this business and I'm really passionate about it, people are going to like and engage with that content. So it does serve 2 different purposes. And I want you to really dig deeper into the kind of context of the reason that you're posting that first. But that's such a great question. Okay, Kevin has a question. Should you focus on only using one platform, or is it better to use multiple platforms to try and reach more subscribers running a new podcast? Oh, congrats on your podcast, Kevin. Let us know what the name of it is. I'd love to know. But should you focus on one platform or multiple platforms? So what I recommend if you're just starting off is to focus on one platform, just one platform. So what I mean is you're choosing only Facebook, or you're choosing only Instagram, or only LinkedIn. So once you select that platform, really focus in on it. And I suggest doing that for 90 days. So I want you to have an intentional focus on doing this content plan on one platform for 90 days. Now, after 90 days, you can decide if you want to layer in another platform or if you want to extend to another 90 days. But you're giving yourself time to figure it out before adding more in. And I'd much rather see you go 100% on one platform than split yourself 50% and only get 50% of the results on either platform. And Kevin, if you're wondering about which platform to focus on, oftentimes with my clients and students, I'm suggesting to start with what you know and what you're already familiar with, because it reduces the learning curve. So if you're already on Facebook personally and you enjoy being on Facebook personally, then sometimes using that as your brand can be a really easy start. Or if you like Instagram already and you're just trying to figure out how to use it for your business, that's an easier transition. If, for instance, I said, Kevin, LinkedIn is the best spot for you, you have to be on LinkedIn, and then you logged in and you were like, I don't get it and I don't like it, you're not going to use it. So I'd much rather you start with the platform that you're most familiar with and evolve from there. Really great question. So next up, I'm going to talk a little bit about a post-pandemic social media strategy, because this is where we are going into. We're headed into this post-pandemic, and I'm going to say post-pandemic very loosely because there are a lot of rumors and things talking about a second wave and things like that. So this may not be over as quickly as we'd like, but I'm going to just assume that the worst of it is over. And like it or not, we've all been impacted in some way by COVID-19. So when we're posting on social media, we want to make sure that we are aware of the varying experiences that people are having as they're going through this kind of like collective, I don't know if trauma is too dramatic, but it's a collective experience. Okay. Kevin, I see your comment. I'm just going to come back to that after this section here, but we're gonna continue that conversation just a little bit. But one of the things that I wanted to point out was that nearly 1/3, that's 32.3% of businesses have lost 40% of their revenues during the pandemic. So that's a lot of people who have reported, and this is according to Stats Canada, and I found this article on CTV News, have reported losses. But that also means there's a lot of people who haven't reported losses. So you want to go into this social media strategy with the awareness that there are varying experiences. And one of the challenges is just assuming that everyone is either doing bad or doing okay. So we want to have more of a neutral approach to it. Don't assume that everyone is struggling, because there are some businesses that are actually seeing increases because of this. Specifically if they're virtual or online businesses. I know for myself, for instance, I've had this coaching program and training program for 3 years. Some of our best months have been in the past 3 months because everyone's turning to online learning. So don't assume everyone is struggling, but there's some ways that you can navigate this. And what I'm actually going to do is in the chat, I'm going to put a link that you can reference for how to specifically say some things on social media. It has some captions that you can copy and paste and kind of tweak it to your own brand, how to navigate, still acknowledging that this is a wild and weird time for everybody, but we have to continue running our businesses. Here's an example for online retailers who are seeing Black Friday-like sales due to the changes. And this is based on a US stat from TechCrunch. But there's a lot of businesses that are seeing upticks, and even Stephanie is saying the service business is on hold, but Etsy is booming. And I do think a lot of people are kind of seeing those dynamics right now. I know one of my clients based in Toronto, e-commerce based business, is the same thing. They're an at-home hair removal device. So think like laser hair removal. All of the spas and meta clinics are closed. So a lot of people are turning to at-home treatments. And so they're one of the ones that are booming. And yeah, Amazon stock is quite pricey right now. It's going up. All right, so let's think about the consumer. Instead of focusing your marketing on yourself and your experience, I want you to focus your captions, your social media messages on the consumer. All they're interested in right now is integrity, communication, and additional options. So let's talk about integrity. As a brand, it's not taking advantage of the situation, right? You're not going to be the guy who put toilet paper on Amazon at a ridiculous price. We're not talking about that. We're talking about showing up online and being open to the conversation. That's where communication comes in. One of my students, for instance, runs rec league basketball in Ohio. All the sports are closed, so her entire county is closed. She does not have a business, and she wasn't sure what to post on social media. She started by asking, and that's where the communication comes in. How can we help? How can we help your kids stay active while they're at home? How can we still provide a service? How can we support? Just communicating that. If you're a restaurant, for instance, over communicating your hours and what's available. I think sometimes we assume that everyone sees all of our posts, and that's just not the case. I think a recent stat I read was about 10% of your followers will see a post at any given time. 10%. So if you have 100 followers, that means 10 people are seeing that post. So you have to over communicate your offers and over communicate your hours and what's available and how people can support you, because they do want to support you, and don't assume that they don't. And then additional options as well. So One of my clients is debt management services. They'd never had online consultations before. Well, now they do. So it's being open to providing additional options for your clients, your customers, and meeting them where they are, which for a lot of us is at home. What won't change? So there's a lot of things that are going to change, but I don't want you to change your dedication to your people and your commitment to showing up online regularly. So those 5 pillars of content, the context of them may look different than typical weeks before this pandemic, but I don't want you to back down or feel like you can't sell or you can't talk about your offers because of an individual assumption. I want you to assume that people want to help you and they want to support you. So refocus on your mission, the 3 W's, the next step, the last step, and your sales funnel. If you're focused on these things, no matter where people are, and you can help them understand what's in it for them, what transformation you help them bring, then presenting the next step is going to feel like a no-brainer. And I want you to double down on digital. Take a look at your 2020 goals. I know a lot has shifted in the past, well, let's see, I guess it's been 5 months since the beginning of the year. It feels like a whole year went by already. But take a fresh look at your goals, reassess, reevaluate. It may not be a big growth year. It may not be all of the things we thought it would be at 2020. Be open to pivoting to your pivoting some of your strategies. So one of my clients, for instance, is an event-based company. She has like local chapter events for her members, and they're in person, always has been in person. She doesn't like online, she doesn't like social media, which is why she hired us. But now they're hosting their first virtual event. It's a lot of learning that goes into that. But her members are excited about it. And she was actually able to book bigger name celebrities for this virtual event than the in-person one, because these celebrities now don't have to pay for travel. So she's actually bringing in more people to the event. More people are aware of the brand than have been ever before, because she was willing to learn how to use some of these new tools. Be flexible with your posting strategy. I know I said the 5 pillars of content, but if you can't think of an entertaining post, don't get stuck on it. Just move on to the next one. If you are getting stuck for like an article to share, that's okay. Move on to the next one. As long as you maintain a consistency in some of your posting, that's all we can do right now, and we have to be kind of a bit kinder to ourselves right now. Spend more time networking and engaging. This is where the attract phase of that social media sales funnel comes into play. Sometimes we get so focused on the content, and the content is important. But if you get stuck and you can't think of anything to post, start networking, start engaging online, just as you would at a networking event, just as you would in person. Start searching for people locally who maybe you never talked to before and strike up a conversation. Start connecting with other businesses and lift them up and share some of their content. And lastly, be 100% dedicated to those in front of you. There are people in your community who are looking to you as leaders, as business owners, for support. And so if you can be 100% dedicated to those people, that kind of service is lasting. That kind of care is something that goes beyond just showing up for a service. That's how you get referral business. That's how you get people talking about you organically on social media, is showing up and doing an amazing job. All right, so let's open up the floor for